I hope you're well. Welcome to your lunar eclipse forecast for November 2020. So can you believe it? We're actually at the last lunar eclipse of the year, which is going to be in Gemini. So for you, Sag, this falls across your first and your seventh houses. The moon will be in Gemini, so that will be in your seventh house of close relationships and kind of business contracts, so one-to-one relationships. And the sun will be in Sagittarius because Sagittarius season will have just got underway. The sun will ingress into your sign starting Sagittarius season on the 21st of November. So I think you'll be feeling quite buoyant as we come up to this particular lunar eclipse, and that's good because the energy just builds from here. It's going to become very, very Jupiterian and quite optimistic and positive as we move into December. So lunar eclipses, as always, tend to be about either endings or culminations, and in this case I think what's happening is we're kind of concluding or taking things to the next level that may have kind of come to our attention around June when we had that lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So in your sign, and it probably sort of threw up a whole lot of things for you that perhaps were a little bit unexpected, and this is a chance now to either sort of progress those particular matters, particularly since the planets are all moving direct now. So you know, if anything felt stuck or a little bit confusing back then, now's the chance to really get answers and to finally clear things up for once and for all. So a couple of things happening astrologically. We're going to go through those quickly, and then we're going to do your geoscope. So the first thing to say is that Gemini is of course Mercury ruled, and Mercury is going to be quite prominent at this eclipse. It's going to be making a sextile to Capricorn. So Mercury in Scorpio, which is in your 12th house. So as I say, I think a lot of this is going to be about psychological kind of realizations, turning corners basically. So Saturn will be in your second house, and I think what this is doing is it's bringing about positive developments or decisions or realizations that are quite grounding and give you a sense of certainty, particularly when it comes to self-worth, the way that you view yourself, but also in terms of valuing your skills, what you have to offer others, and of course financially. You know, if it's been a bit of a struggle the last 6 months, I think that there will be some positive developments, some substantial offers coming in for you when it comes to money and earned income. And then the other positive thing that's happening at this lunar eclipse is that Chiron will be making some very nice aspects to the sun and the moon. So Chiron retrograde in Aries, and Aries for you falls in your 5th house. So I think a lot of opportunities for healing when it comes to new love relationships, any kind of passionate affair that is not a committed partnership, creative endeavors, anything to do with children, as well as matters that maybe, so like side hustles, or maybe you've decided to go out on your own or try something out when it comes to the arts, leisure, hospitality, those kind of areas. But yes, if things haven't really gone too well, you know, in the past, now's an opportunity to do some healing over the 2 weeks that follow this particular lunar eclipse, because really what we're doing is we're building up to that solar eclipse that happens in your sign, so in Sagittarius in December. That's going to be major reset that's going to take us into the first half of 2021. So really what you're doing now is tying up loose ends, consolidating, integrating, processing anything that's kind of left over, so that you know what you want to leave in 2020 and what you want to take with you into 2021. The other thing to say is that Neptune is going to be direct. It'll turn direct. It'll start moving forward from the 29th of November, so just before this eclipse. Neptune currently in your 4th house, which is family, roots, home, and that sense of belonging. Also what we inherit from our family. So this can be sort of genetic inheritances. It can also be a talent or a skill, or a physical inheritance, through a will, say a legacy of some kind. So as I say, Neptune has been retrograde for some months now, which can lead to confusion, miscommunication, sometimes deception, but not always deliberate. Or it can just be about a lack of boundaries. So when it comes to family members, I feel as though, you can start to sort out a lot here. The only thing I will say is that Neptune will be making a T-square to the lunar nodes, which are going to be in the same signs as the Sun and the Moon. So in the later degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius. So again, there may be some karmic clearing, the end of certain karmic cycles happening, and the start of new ones. So that's just something to bear in mind. But I do think that there's a very strong link to that lunar eclipse in June, because Neptune and Mars were both making a T-square to the nodes at that time as well. I think in the early degrees of Gemini Sag though. So at that time there may have been some kind of niggles that were almost a bit of passive aggressive behavior, some undercurrents below the surface where you felt that certain people maybe didn't get you, or were kind of not necessarily judging you, but just that there was unspoken tension or conflict of some kind. And that now I think has an opportunity to resolve, because Mars is direct now. It went direct on the 14th of November, and Neptune too is also direct. So, a real chance to kind of clear things up when it comes to home, family roots, and so on. It could also be that you may, if you've been thinking about relocating, that you get clear about what it is that you want to do moving forward. And then finally, Venus will have ingressed into Scorpio, so she will also be in your 12th house. And she's going to be making some fabulous aspects to the outer planets in December. So something to look forward to during the first 2 weeks of December, which is when the energy of this lunar eclipse is going to be kind of active. So that's really, really good news. I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear that. And of course, that's going to happen to the planets that are here in your second house of of income. So I do really feel as though you're going to feel a huge sense of turning a corner, and really kind of you'll realize how far you've come, I think, in December, when it comes to self-worth, money, and values, that kind of thing. So lots of good news, but let's get into more specific messages for you with the Geomancy cards. Let's start off with the Sun and the Moon. Interesting. Okay, so again, it's interesting that we've got a very prominent Mercury and Saturn here, given that we've got that, that Mercury-Saturn sextile happening at this lunar eclipse. So here we've got Albus and Tristia as your kind of qualifiers for the Sun and the Moon. And what I really feel is that you're kind of letting go of either certain dynamics or potential relationships that have made you feel a bit miserable, or that just haven't panned out for whatever reason. And I think this is almost a leave over from or kind of ripple effect from that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction that we had at the 11:11 portal. The energy was very, very strong, and of course it was the third and final pass of that particular transit, the first being around about the 5th of April, I think, so close to that 444 gateway, and then the middle pass was in late June, I think, or late July. I can't remember exactly now, but it was close to that lunar eclipse that we had in Capricorn. So this, I think, is kind of saying that you want to sort of turn over the page, you want a fresh start. You're perhaps looking at relationships from a new perspective, because of course this eclipse happens across the axis of self, and other. So relationships of all kinds, both sort of in terms of what your needs are versus those of others, I think is really what you are rebalancing or recalibrating, during this particular event. So Albus here for me is usually about self-sufficiency and a sense of being self-contained almost. Albus, for me has resonances with the Hermit card in the tarot. It's about purity. It literally means white. So I kind of see this as you being ending the year feeling a lot more self-contained, as though you don't really need others. You know, it's nice to have them around, but you don't feel that sense of of deep, as if something is missing if people are not around. So I think that's always a good place to be in, because then when you do come together with others, it comes from a place of want rather than need. So I really feel as though this particular eclipse for you is kind of clearing out and healing, that Chiron energy here. Relationships potentially with children or with lovers. But it's not exclusively kind of restricted to that, because we are talking about all significant one-to-one partnerships. So it can also be business partnerships, and I kind of think that with Tristia here, this for me is about pain, sorrow, disappointment, where things haven't really worked out, or where people have just kind of moved away from each other, or you've just grown apart, really. And I kind of see this as being a chance to press the reset button to sort of start fresh, and to move on from disappointments, when it comes to key relationships. Now let's have a look at that Chiron card. Oh, interesting. So with Populus to Chiron, I kind of feel as though this could be one of two things. It could mean that the way that this healing takes place for you in terms of Chiron energy is either that you have an opportunity to socialize again with others. Of course, many of us have not really been able to get near loved ones because of things like lockdown and social distancing. So it could be now that you are able to congregate again with some of your favorite people. These could be people that you usually play sport with, that you go on holiday with. It could be play dates again for your child. It could also be about popularity when it comes to dating. Maybe you're kind of getting back on the dating scene through a dating app or platform. Populous for me is about kind of communal activities or ways of relating. So that's something to, it's certainly a contrast to Tristia, so that's nice to see. It could also be going away on holiday with a group of people, for example, or a group collaboration on for a creative project or a sporting project, something like that, or a new venture that's maybe is about the holiday or leisure or hospitality industries, which of course deal with a lot of people, tour groups, etc. Let's have a look at Saturn. Wow, that's amazing. So yes, Saturn really in its form of as the manifestor for you, I think, with that Mercury Saturn sextile, and of course Venus in the mix there as well. So Fortuna Major is wonderful. This is the element of fire, and this is really all about success and a growing sense of confidence. So as I say, self-worth I think is definitely on the rise, feeling more confident about your skills and abilities and what you have to offer others, which I think is a nice antidote to Tristia. Fortuna Major also about success, so being recognized by others, and on that score I'll be interested to see what's happening in your midheaven position. Yeah, interesting. So a new cycle starting for you when it comes to career and kind of your sense of soul purpose or future direction of travel, heading in a new direction. And that could be a fresh start for you generally. Maybe you're kind of thinking, kind of new me, new like a change of scene, maybe a change of people. But definitely heading in a new direction, which is perfect given that we are coming up to what is essentially the cosmic new year with that solar eclipse in your sign. So I think Sagittarius season is going to be huge for you this year, Sag. This is the start of a whole new era, because don't forget, of course, that during the later part of about a week after that solar eclipse in Sagittarius, which lasts for 6 months, do remember that, we have that conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. So Jupiter is your ruling planet, and it's going to be making a conjunction with Saturn in Aquarius. So this is a brand new 20-year cycle starting. So this is huge for you, Sag. Major reset. So very important that you spend the 2 weeks of this lunar eclipse cycle really getting clear about goals that you want to achieve over the next 20 years. So really thinking about the long term, and getting clear about priorities and so on. And with that said, let's see what we've got here. Yes, how interesting. So we've got Venus and Mercury in your 12th house, and here we've got conjunctio. So a kind of coming together internally. I feel like this is about internal cohesion. Conjunctio is literally conjunction. So it can be about alliances or the balancing of opposites. And I feel like because it's in your position of your psyche, that this is really about you finding a more whole or integrated place psychologically. And I think that from there, this is going to really help you to sort of manifest and to get very clear about what it is that you have to offer, to others and to potential employers as well. So with that said, let's have a look at Neptune next. Yes, definitely, and this is what I feel so strongly. Via here at the sort of the root of your chart. So for me, this is a kind of an axis. It's almost like the tree, and I feel as though we've got a fresh start for you in the 10th house, and we've got Via, so momentum happening for you here in your 4th house. So I do feel as though you're moving in a brand new direction, possibly thinking about relocating, major shifts happening within the home. So you could well be moving, in the new year, or in the near future. But definitely things shifting, moving in a positive direction, with populace here, as far as groups are concerned, particularly family dynamics with children, and then of course things shifting here as well for you in terms of family relationships. So very, very interesting energy. Let's look now at work. Wow, amazing. The readings have been so positive. It's just so lovely to see. So here in your 6th house of work and health, we've got Letitia. So another lovely dose of Jupiter energy. This is Jupiter in its water rulership of Pisces. So this is traditionally Jupiter co-ruled Pisces before the discovery of Neptune. So here we've got Letitia, which is all about happiness, joy, enthusiasm, celebrations, also recovery after illness. So if you have struggled with your health a little bit this year, then things are definitely set to improve. But it's possible that you may also have reason to celebrate when it comes to work. If you are looking for a new form of employment, this definitely looks like it's on the cards, quite literally. But definitely reasons to celebrate when it comes to work and health. Okay, let's have a look at the final set of geomantic figures. Fascinating. All right, so the first thing to say is that when it comes to that reset I was talking about, that new karmic cycle starting for you, I do really feel as though this is about a shift in beliefs. It could also be about, as I was saying, relocation, and in which case it looks to me as though you might be thinking about emigrating, moving overseas, because the 9th house is about foreign countries and cultures. So I do think that you could be considering a move to another country. That certainly looks like it's on the cards. The other way that this could work is, this shift in terms of your beliefs. The 9th house also being about our philosophy and our outlook on life, the big picture as it were. So you really are considering the long term and how you want to steer your life in a new direction. And I feel like this is really, a seminal year where we are, as a collective, letting go of the old. There's no going back to that old way of life in many respects. Those structures are dissolving. So this really is about embracing the new, moving forward, and looking to the future with optimism and with anticipation, really. And then we've got populace reiterated in your 11th house. So it could well be that you are healing dynamics, sort of group dynamics. It may have something to do with a friendship circle, possibly something to do with social media, or, as I was saying, some kind of group project that may have involved either children, hospitality, or some kind of creative endeavor. But that's certainly, group dynamics of all kinds, working with others seems to be the way forward. And then finally Puella in your 8th house. So if you have had kind of differences of opinion with others, or like conflict or disappointment when it comes to shared resources, for example, I do see things rebalancing now. Puella here is all about kind of finding harmony again, making up with others, coming to a fair and equitable agreement. And this could be to do with tax, it could be to do with legacy, so wills, as well as things like divorce settlements and any kind of joint project. So it could also be, if you've gone into business with somebody, something like that. But I do see things being resolved equitably, a fair decision being made. And if, particularly if you're getting divorced, a brand new start for you, a new start in life as a single person, but lots to celebrate, I feel. And then finally, yes, so letting go. Isn't this interesting? So we've got the axis here of the head and the tail of the dragon across your 3rd and 9th houses, which are kind of naturally associated with Gemini and Sagittarius. So definitely the end of an old way of thinking, possibly moving out of your local neighborhood, a change or some kind of ending when it comes to the way that you express yourself, your negative sort of self-talk, for example, banishing some negative self-talk with this kind of shift in your psyche, but it can also be about, as I say, the end of a karmic cycle when it comes to close relatives, so siblings here and cousins, and this may also of course relate to family affairs, this shift in your family dynamics. Possibly, this person here may be a family member. If so, then I do feel as though, if, say for example, you haven't been talking to a family member, then I do feel as though that's coming to an end now. Here, this is also about communication. So, but we will, yes, we will clarify with the trinkets. Let's do that right now. Okay. Yes, so I do feel as though this has to do with matters of the heart rather than business. So family or friends or lovers. Yes, and it could have something to do with maybe a difference of opinion about, how to raise children. Could also be that somebody's been a little bit childish, or this sometimes for me can be about baby steps. So one person is sort of reaching out to another, just kind of dipping their toe in the water, and from there, things can kind of develop further. So I think the key here is step by step, not rushing into anything. Okay, so for Albus, which is where the sun will be, so this is the sun at the lunar eclipse, we've got the fish, which is lovely. The fish for me is all about riches, and I think that we are talking about both inner riches here and also financial abundance. So that, I think, is a big theme for you. And think about Jupiter in as co-ruler of Sagittarius and Pisces. Jupiter expands. And I think this goes quite nicely actually with Letitia. So going with the flow, but also an expansion for you. Finding your, I almost feel like, if you think of that saying, a fish out of water, I almost feel as though you're kind of moving out of one pond and into the right pond, so that you are kind of, so that you find where you belong. Almost, you feel like you fit. Yeah, and if I think about it too, with the moon here in Gemini, this is very much about, emotional connections here, as well as patterns of relating that I think maybe haven't worked so well for you in the past. It could be that you've sold yourself short, or that you have accepted less than satisfactory one-sided relationships, and or you know, it could be that you just feel that something hasn't kind of panned out, you know, just you've grown apart from other people, but definitely an emphasis here on emotional connections. But you know, with these two together, I do feel as though you're coming more into a position of flow, harmony with the right people. This reminds me of the trine aspect, which is all about kind of flowing, harmonious energy. So I think you know, relationships coming into balance again. All right, let's have one for that conjuncture at the top there. Yeah, so making different choices with the crossroads here, and I think this is a lot to do with that Mercury-Saturn sextile. You're making important decisions and coming to like forks in the road in terms of sort of seeing what's true and what isn't. Yeah, because we've got the fox here with Fortuna Major, so that to me kind of points to sometimes it can be about deception, and this can also be about self-deception. You know, when we tell ourselves that we're worthless, and that we don't have anything to contribute, we're not clever enough, because the fox is very clever. I do feel that that's shifting enormously with Fortuna Major here, that you're starting to realize you know, what you bring to the table in a very positive way. So that solar plexus chakra almost, you know, kind of starting to shine more, radiate. All right, let's have one for Via. So, all right. What I kind of feel is though you've felt a little bit stuck, and I think this is probably, you know, during the period when Neptune was retrograde, that you felt a little bit stuck, and it was quite a burden. Maybe you were stuck living with somebody, you know, if you say, for example, were in a process of getting divorced and you couldn't move out until the divorce proceedings were finalized. That's been a real burden. You know, the cross is very often about suffering, but it can also be about our beliefs. So I do see a shift here on both, you know, the literal and the figurative level. You know, if we think about Capricornus as being a new cycle when it comes to beliefs, I think letting go of maybe, you know, beliefs that may have held you stuck in this paradigm of you have to suffer in order to grow, you know, that kind of thing. I think you're really kind of letting that go, and you are definitely flowing more here, you know, via being the path, the road forward, so moving forward with purpose. All right, let's have one for Capricornus, and then we must look at the outcome. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So moving forward in a much to a much better place. So looking forward to almost like the sunrise. I keep thinking of that Three of Wands card in the tarot. So looking to the future with confidence, with optimism, and it looks to me as though the future is bright. So that's beautiful. All right, let's see what's happening here. Yes. Absolutely. So just confirming, I think, the reading overall. So a fresh start, blank sheet of paper for you here. And I think you probably started to feel that when we got to the new moon in Scorpio, which of course you would be almost like something dawning in the subconscious before it becomes conscious. So fresh start for you, blank sheet of paper, moving in a new direction, leaving behind what hasn't worked, what's been disappointing, or just hasn't been enough, or that was never going to be reaching its potential. You know, I'm thinking here in terms of certain relationships that may have disappointed, or indeed, you know, business deals that maybe didn't amount to anything. But then we've got celebration and joy here, so reiterating this light tissue in your 6th house. So moving from, you know, loss and unhappiness and disappointment to a position of celebration, joy, expansion, particularly in the emotional body, and just a much more positive place. So, I mean, stunning reading, Sag. I think you should be very pleased. Definitely, as I say, use the 2 weeks of this phase to really get clear about where it is you want to head, next year, because you know, it's almost like Christmas is coming early. Cosmically speaking, the new year in many respects starts like it did last year with that December solar eclipse. So getting very clear on future direction of travel, feeling very optimistic, making different decisions, you know, things improving when it comes to relationships, and happiness when it comes to, and success when it comes to work. So that's all very, very positive. So thrilled for you, Sag. If you've enjoyed this video, do hit the like button. Your likes, shares and subscribes are always appreciated. But I'm sending you lots of love, and I'll see you for my solar forecast, which will be the last one, the last solar eclipse for the year.